Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today I will be beating Dark Souls 2 with Pyromancy only. This is a throwback to the first Dark Souls challenge I ever did, which was Dark Souls 1 with Pyromancy only, which was a lot easier than this, I'm going to be honest. Even though some of those bosses couldn't really be killed by Pyromancy, it was still actually kind of easier than this one. Because this one doesn't have a Pyromancer class to start with, so I have to go retrieve the flame and spells to use here now. Moving on. On to Dragon Rider, which just shows how scuffed this run was to begin with, because I tried to cheese him like normal, and then I kind of just dodged him, and then here in a second he just kind of flings himself off. Like, moving on. With the Dragon Rider's boss souls, I buy the Silver Cat ring so I can take the plunge into the Majula pit, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to get a Pyromancy flame so early. I also go ahead and grab the blue ring that you get from joining the Blue Sentinels, because it gives a little bit extra HP, so hopefully it should be able to like push me over how much HP I need to tank the fall. I also do level up my vitality a little bit, so I have enough to survive. Moving on. Here's where I grab the Dark Pyromancy Flame, and that's where it was right there. And then also I climb up to get the Fragrant Branch of Yore, which is up there, because I need that to unlock the Pyromancy Teacher. Making my way to the Shaded Woods, I unlock Rosabeth, which is like the main Pyromancy Teacher you really have. They'll sit in Majula. You can upgrade your Pyromancy Flame with them, and you can also just buy basic Pyromancies from them. Moving on. I go ahead and collect some souls so I can purchase Fireball and Combustion. Combustion's probably like the best early game spell you can have. After getting the second an attunement slot so I can have a Fireball, I'm able to take on the last giant, and this guy does take a while, so I'm going to take the time to explain how scuffed this run was. So number one, I wasn't really playing Wednesday to Friday because I was like horribly sick, which means I didn't really remember where I was in the game and like what I killed, so I ended up forgetting to go back for a lot of bosses I missed. And then also I lost the footage to Sir Alon twice in a row, because I'm pretty sure I lost it for the last video too. And I lost it for this one too, which is just insane. But yeah, moving on. For the Pursuer, I didn't think I had enough spell casts, because at this point I also gained Fire Orb. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I had enough spell cast, so I tried to hit him with the ballistas just to ensure that I could kill him, but then at some point he just destroyed both, and I decided I would just try anyway. And, I mean, surprisingly, the Pyromancies were doing okay damage this early, where I could, like, feasibly kill him with all of my Pyromancies. But, I mean, during a lot of this game, there's, like, especially with the Ivory King fight, I had a lot of trouble actually having enough Pyromancy to take on the boss. So at that point in the game, I didn't do it now. But like when I made it to that boss, I ended up spawning in just a bunch of Twilight Herbs, just so I wouldn't need to go farm for spell restoration items. So I did cheat in that way, but that's like the only way I cheated in this run. Moving on. This guy was fairly hard to take down because I honestly took long enough to kill him where the water level started to rise, because I certainly couldn't kill him with the amount of Pyromancies I had, that was for sure. And so I had to use an Amber Herb at some point during this fight to do enough damage. But I mean, it wasn't too bad. It was fairly easy to, because they have like 3 total attacks. It's just I never have like done this little damage to this guy in such a long amount of time, where the water level has risen to like to my waist. Because like, yeah, look, the boss is almost dead and the water level's like at my waist. Like, it's almost about to be like where I can barely move, but luckily I'm able to take him down fast enough. Moving on. And then also after this guy, you can get the regular Pyromancy Flame, which I use for the rest of the run. I go ahead and use an extra branch to free Strayed from his cell, so I can use him as a Pyromancy Teacher, because he does sell some pretty powerful Pyromancies. Moving on. Now the next step in my journey was to reach Falcon, but I was dirt broke at this point, and I really wasn't trying to pay her 2,000 just to move it so I could go kill Falcon. And so I decided I can just kill her pretty easily, but it turns out she has like a couple thousand HP. And so I was having a lot of trouble with her until I realized because she would just keep healing until I realized right here her AI breaks where she just tries to walk back into the room that she started in. So if I could just keep her in there, she can't heal, which made it a lot easier so I could actually move on to Falcon. Moving on. Killing Falcon was significantly easier because I will need his Sunset Staff later for Forbidden Sun, and also his Hexer's Hood is helpful now, so I can have an extra cast of all my spells. Moving on. On to the Lost Sinner. While it's the easiest Lord Soul, it's definitely my most enjoyable Lord Soul to kill, because it's actually like moving around, unlike Freya, the Rotten, and the Old Iron King. They kind of just stand there and shoot stuff at you. But I mean, this boss actually kind of fights you, so this one's a lot more fun to me. But yeah, no, it wasn't too hard. She was actually surprisingly kind of like weak-ish to pyromancies. Like, she took a good chunk of damage to them. I would assume that she would have been fairly resistant to fire, but maybe not. It definitely makes my life a lot easier. Moving on. Moving on to the Rotten, mainly because there's like no bosses in the way of the Rotten, and also he has a fire seed in his arena, which can give me more power on my Pyromancy Flame, as you would assume. But yeah, no, he's really not too hard, especially because he kind of just throws out the same 3 attacks. I mean, I am getting 2-shot here, so I do need to be kind of careful to not get hit too much. But I mean, I've played so much Dark Souls 2 at this point, I kind of just know what's going on. Which, speaking of playing a lot of Dark Souls 2, I think my next challenge... Actually, I might just take a break week from Dark Souls at least. I might do something different next week. But I don't know. I'm just kind of burnt out. Or maybe Dark Souls 3, I don't know. Definitely not any more Dark Souls 2, because this run was just kind of AIDS. But yeah, no. Especially because I feel like a lot of things just went wrong with the recording that shouldn't have. Like, losing Sir Alon twice in a row really made me mad. Moving on. On to one of my least favorite fights in the game, the Executioner's Chariot, where you just get ganked by skeletons for like 45 minutes while you pray that they don't hit you too much, because there really is no other way to like get around all these guys, because like half the time when you take them down they just immediately get respawned, which is insane. But yeah, no, I really do hate this fight. I hate the run back too, because it's like a 50% chance they even let you in the door, unless you spend like an hour and a half just clearing out all the guys on the way over there, which is like, I don't want to do that for anything other than like Shrine of Amana, if I have to. But like, yeah, no. As soon as the Executioner's Chariot by himself, he literally drops in like seconds, because he's not very strong. But yeah, moving on. With the Token of Spite I picked up on the way down to the Black Gulch, I can talk to this guy who will sell a couple of solid pyromancies I can buy. Moving on to Skeleton Lords, these guys aren't very difficult, especially because I have like a couple of like solid AoE, pyromancies like Flame Swath. I mean, Forbidden Sun would have probably been great at this point, but you can't necessarily get it till Aldia's Keep. But yeah, but I also do have Firestorm at this point, which does good work on all of these guys. So I can mainly just run around in circles and cast all of my AoE stuff until they all go down. And then, yeah, I left that guy alive, and then I do the last wave by just spamming Firestorm and taking them all out. Moving on. Covetous Demon is pretty easy. Really isn't much to say here. Like, just spam pyromancies at this guy and he'll eventually go down. I mean, Firestorm's actually really weak this time around, because it doesn't really do much damage if you hit multiple pillars. It's mainly just like a chunk of damage for the initial hit, and then like some burn afterwards, which definitely makes those spells a lot less useful in Dark Souls 2. Yeah, no, I hate that part. Half the time those guys just get you for no reason. But yeah, no, on to the actual main attraction here. Pretty boring. And she just does like the same like 4 things. Like, I feel like that's the issue with a lot of the base game bosses. They have like a grand total of like 4 attacks they can throw at you, and none of them are like very complicated, so you could pretty easily dodge them. Moving on. Before continuing on to Smelter Demon, I decided I would get the Toxic Mist you get by killing the Royal Rat Vanguard and giving their soul to Strayed, because the Smelter Demon is fairly weak to poison, but is very resistant to fire. So I thought I could probably just poison the guy to death if I got Poison and Toxic Mist. And so that's exactly what I did. Moving on. Getting to Smelter Demon was a pain as always, but I won't really bother you with all that. The actual boss is pretty easy to take down if you could just spam Toxic and Poison Mist at this guy. Like, I mean, look at how much his health drains. It's so, I mean, this is 4 times speed after all, but you know what I mean. He's getting his health drained here. But yeah, no, nothing too difficult with this guy. Moving on. Old Iron King was really tough because I couldn't really do much damage to him other than straight poison. That's like another reason I got the Toxic Mist like now, was because this is about the time I would need it to actually like reasonably complete this run. And to take out the Old Iron King, I needed a lot of poison. I needed so much that I would need to pop an Amber Herb, or a Rogue Water is basically an Amber Herb, but it also heals. I would need to pop one of those just so I have enough poison to take the guy out, which luckily I did. Moving on. Moving on to Mytha. Mytha was not too difficult. Immune to poison, so I switched all of that poison stuff off for just more fire. Actually, I did not. I thought I did. But, yeah, it didn't really work here, so... pretty useless, but, no worries, no worries. She does take a lot of fire damage, so it is pretty easy to take her out as soon as I'm there. Moving on. I'm going to take this time to just let you know, at this point, I also had the Penal Hand Gloves and the Lion Mage set. I've shown how to get the Lion Mage set in previous videos, but the Penal Handcuffs you just get from Maulin, the, like, clothing trader in Majula. You spend 12,000 with him, reset, and then he should sell it. But yeah, no, I didn't even bother talking about that boss. Moving on. Now this boss took a little while because a lot of my spells were hit or miss. You really had to be like exactly in the right place for a lot of these combustions to hit. And then anything other than combustion didn't really connect. I mean, Flame Swath kind of did sometimes if you were like really good with the placement, but it had to be like spot on. And so, but I mean, luckily she takes so much fire damage that with the spells that I did have access to, I was able to, yeah, here I was just trying everything I had to see if it would do something. Just to see if combustion was really my only option, because at this point I wasn't 100% sure, but like, as soon as I was at like 1 combustion, Freya was almost dead and I had 6 great combustions left, I was like, yeah, this is easy. Moving on. Dual Dragon Rider fight was really nothing to be mad at. Also, I just remembered at this point, definitely did not do Dark Lurker either. And then I imagine I probably missed somebody else, but I just can't remember now. So if there was a boss I missed and I didn't say it in the video, let me know in the comments below. On to a boss in the top 5 for sure. Looking Glass Knight. I know I always say that, but you know, good bosses are hard to come by in this game. I mean, this boss isn't great, don't get me wrong. I mean, I definitely, like, I think his moves could be a lot better. Like, he has, like, 3 combos he can throw at you. But I mean, that's kind of just par for the course with these bosses. I honestly think we just look at these bosses a lot differently now that we've played, like, Elden Ring and all those things like that. And so they just look a lot more lackluster in comparison. But, yeah. I also don't know how that didn't kill him right there. Moving on. On to the worst boss in the game. I won't even give you the luxury of starting at the boss door. You're right in the thick of it. Not the KSI song, by the way. That thing's awful. But, yeah. Demon of Song isn't very hard. Poison does magic because, it works even though she's in a shell. But yeah, moving on. Definitely in the top 3 bosses, except for when it shows up alongside Alana, which we'll get to that later, because I was so mad. I spent probably about an hour or 2 on her just because she would always send Veldstad in, even when I would try to like wait to kill him so she wouldn't summon Veldstad again. She would somehow still summon him again, which is insane. But yeah, no, he's pretty easy. Moving on. Now this is the man that gives you Forbidden Sun. The only 3 items you need for him to give you Forbidden Sun is the ladder miniature, which you get from Gilligan by either killing him or you can just buy it off of him for like less than 10,000 souls. Kale's helmet, which I think you can just kill him for, but there's probably, I imagine there's some way he can give it to you, probably if you complete his map. And then Falcon's staff with the Sunset staff, which you can get at 20 faith and 20 intellect by talking to him or just outright killing him, which I already did. And I already had the ladder miniature on me, so I just ran over to Kale's location to take his helmet off his head. After doing that, I can go back and just show him all the things. I already have Falcon's staff, which gives me Forbidden Sun. And then it tells you to kill the Firekeeper next, and you need to show the feather, which you get later in the game if you want to come back and get, I think it's like Expel Magic, and you also unlock him as a vendor. Moving on to the Guardian Dragon, nothing too difficult with this guy, just the fact that he cannot stay on the ground for his life. I don't know why I really tried to use Poison Mist here with a boss that like never stays in one place, but I mean, I was able to proc it once and I did half his health bar. So after that, I was able to just, I mean, I didn't even have many projectiles here, so I think I kind of just had to hope he got on the ground to poison him, or I could just, I don't know why I was so committed to poisoning this guy. I don't know why I didn't just hit him with a combustion when this guy got on the ground, but I mean, poisoned him again and that's basically him dead. Moving on. Now this one's a lot faster than usual because this ancient dragon fight, as you could probably assume, took quite a while. And I needed a lot of like spell replenishing items to complete this. Honestly, at this point should have been the point where I decided to spawn in all of the Twilight Herbs, but I didn't. I think I just went and bought a bunch of Crimson Waters from somewhere just to see if that was enough to take him down, because I wasn't really aware on how strong Fume Knight would be, so I thought this was the hardest fight of the run. This fight probably was like 20 minutes real time, because this is 8 times speed at the moment. His health is dropping like this at 8 times speed. So, and as you can see, I mean, it's still watchable, because it's not like I'm moving around very much, I'm just kind of going to the same spot back and forth. So it's nothing too hard to watch here, but also I just didn't think you guys would want to sit through a 20-minute ancient dragon fight, and I like to show my whole fights, so don't worry. I mean, I'll probably have 4 times speed on for Fume Knight just because it's a more interesting fight, but yeah, moving on. Moving on to the Giant Lord, which is fairly easy to take down. He's nothing too crazy. Like, he's kind of weak to fire. I don't know if that's just like the regular weakness to fire or if he's just generally weak. I don't really know. I just can really mainly tell when they're very resistant to it. But yeah, no, luckily I'm doing a lot of damage at this point because I have a basically upgraded Pyromancy Flame, which is pretty good. Moving on to Vendrick. Nothing too crazy about this guy. I got all 5 giant souls before facing him, so I mean, I'm doing quite a bit of damage to him, so it is pretty easy to take this guy out. He hits hard, but he hits like the same, like, I think this guy is even less combos than the regular Dark Souls 2 boss. He's got like 3, actually no, he's got like 2. He's got like the long swipe and the overhead strike. That's really all he's got. But yeah, this guy's not too hard. Moving on. Alright, on to Throne Watcher and Defender, which weren't too hard, especially because they're fairly weak to poison. Or at least they're susceptible to being poisoned. That's really all that counts for me. Like, if they can take the poison, I'll make sure they become poisoned. And that basically just outright kills both of them. Moving on. On to Nishandra, which I got first try. Because, I mean, she really isn't too difficult. Kind of just running circles around her. And don't get hit. But yeah, this fight was honestly, I don't know, it wasn't too bad. Definitely was not hard at all. It was just kind of boring, really. I mean, that's kind of the way these fights are. Moving on. Now, for this Aldia fight, just to make it kind of goofy, I decided to summon as many of these guys as I could manage. Which means I was going 4 deep into this fight, because I didn't know you could spawn this many people. But I just wanted to see how many I could spawn, because I knew I could kill Aldia, but it would just take a while. But I mean, with these guys, it probably took just as long, because we were doing like 9 damage a swing. Like, it probably didn't help having all these people, so I don't really consider it cheating, because I mean, it was like one of the easiest fights in the game. I just decided to have 4 people on. I think it was more fun this way, for sure. At that point, I lost my first guy, because they couldn't figure out how to just not run at the guy and just take the fire damage. So it was pretty tough out there, but yeah, these guys, honestly, I'm shocked that they like survived as long as they did. I didn't really think they were gonna like, I didn't think I was gonna beat this guy with this many summons. Moving on. And this is where the game ends. I decided to choose the throne because the last couple times I took the other way out. And yeah, that's the base game. I have a little bit left of the DLCs, but yeah. I hope you guys stick around to watch the rest of the video. And if you did enjoy so far, maybe like, maybe comment, and maybe even subscribe. But yeah, let's keep it moving, why don't we? Starting off with what's definitely the worst boss in the Dark Souls 2 DLC lineup. This guy. I really don't enjoy a boss that can summon another boss, or can just summon like random things to gank you with. That's like, that they can keep respawning to. I just hate stuff like that. So I mean, I definitely don't like when Veldstat can just show up mid-fight, but after getting Veldstat down, it's not too hard to face the boss, because all they do is just spam projectiles at you. But yeah, double Veldstat this time around, which is like really what I wanted here. This is like what I want every day I wake up, is to fight 2 bosses in one arena, and one of those bosses just like flings projectiles at you the whole time, and the other one will just W key you and can break your posture in 1 hit. That's what I love to see. But yeah, I don't know what they were cooking with this one, but I think whoever thought of this one needs to rethink their occupation. But yeah, and then I get the skeletons literally right after Veldstat dies, which, I mean, these guys aren't so bad, especially because if I just spam Firestorm, I can kill them while doing a little bit of damage to the boss, and also like 1 combustion drops them dead. So the skeletons weren't too hard to deal with. But yeah, no. I got another set of skeletons there, but I decided I would just power through it and kill it right there. Moving on. Next on the chopping block, the best boss in this DLC, but probably like the 5th worst boss in all the DLCs. I don't really know. I mean, he's kind of up there. He's definitely better than Ava, Lud, and the other one. The Gank Squad. Alana's at the bottom. Yeah. So probably 5th. But yeah, no, this guy's pretty awful, as you can assume. This guy's just like, he spams toxic projectiles. I just hate the fact he does toxic. If he just did like normal fire damage, I'd be fine. But of course, he's also just resistant to fire. So that means I'm doing like a lot less damage than I would be. It's not as much as Fume Knight's gonna be later, which is just gonna be, which that was just not fun, fighting Fume Knight for 20 minutes straight. But I mean, this guy isn't horribly difficult, I guess. I just hate that he spends like a good 25% of the fight mid-air where I can't do anything to him. But I mean, that also does give me some opportunities to pop some amber herbs, which is kind of nice. But yeah, no, this fight definitely drew out a lot longer than I thought it would. And it also doesn't help that he's resistant to poison. A lot of my longer fights is mainly just because I can't poison them. And so there's no like constant damage ticking. It's usually just my fire damage, which isn't great a lot of the time. But yeah, definitely a doozy. Moving on. This boss would have been worse, like would have been lower on my tier list than Alana if it wasn't for the fact that they can get poisoned and toxic. Which means I can throw the clouds down and run for dear life while they take a bunch of chip damage, and just pray that Varg doesn't spam Estus Flasks, because of course he does. So why does he have the Estus Flasks? I don't know why they couldn't just give the Estus Flasks to the easy one, like the Archer. Or the, like, because I mean the Archer does have the lowest health after all. I really feel like they should have a healing item, not the guy who's literally a iron boulder walking at me, who can also break my posture in one hit and can run just as fast as me in all that armor. But yeah, I don't know, man. But fight's definitely really annoying. But yeah, I really don't know what to say. I just wish that this guy wouldn't. I don't know, bro. It's just a lot of these fights are so annoying, man. Like, yeah, Varg goes down eventually, and then as soon as it's the Archer, it's really easy because they just stand there and tank damage. Well, I wouldn't really say tank. They take damage. Then, but I mean, yeah, there's really so much to say about this last bit. It's mainly just me trying to not get like one tapped out of nowhere by that bow. Because I know that bow can do like half my health bar. And then I try to make her walk into the fire whip, but then she literally just runs away. And it's like, at this point, I don't really want to use any amber herbs. So I'm trying to use what I have. But trying to use combustion on this lady makes her just run away. So it's so hard. But yeah, moving on. This fight is somewhat entertaining. So I will, this one's definitely above Alana and, Alana, the King's Pet duo, and the Yank squad. I just never do the King's Pet duo because that one's just AIDS. Like, I mean, Alana is like doable, but it's like, I feel like with the King's Pet, it's a better fight, I guess, because it's not like, I don't know, it's just, I find that fight personally like just worse. So I guess on my personal list, I'd probably put that fight on the lowest tier. But I don't know. I really feel like it's a little more manageable. I just never have fun. And the run back's also just awful. Like, the run back's awful, and the actual boss is just even worse. And then this boss is just also annoying to deal with a lot of the time. But yeah, moving on. I lost the footage of me collecting the Ivory Knights, but I really don't care. I don't think it's that big of a deal because, I mean, these people probably shouldn't be here anyway. The main reason I get them is just so these guys don't keep spawning. Because I'm pretty sure if I didn't collect every single night, they would just continuously spawn during the boss battle, and that's just not happening for me. So I have to have them all down here. But no, a lot of the time, as you can see, I have 4 of the knights on me, and my 2 Ivory Knights that are remaining at this point are who knows where. Like, just swinging back and forth at random guys. Like, they're literally walking up. I'm pretty sure, I don't think it was the winning attempt, but I'm pretty sure during one of these attempts, one of my Ivory Knights literally swung directly at me. There was, like, no other knights near me, and they just started attacking me out of nowhere. But, you know, luckily this time I made it to the boss fight. Popped the Twilight Herb so I could actually have cast. This is where I spawned them in. I didn't spawn them in exactly here, but you know what I mean. Like, this is the point in time where I just needed them, because I just wasn't going to kill him otherwise. This guy was fairly resistant to fire, but definitely not as much as Fume Knight, which we'll see later. That fight was just bad. That fight just was not fun. Yeah, no, Burn Ivory King was pretty easy to take down. If I just spammed fireballs at this guy, I could just stay like at a fairly long distance away, which was nice, even though his sword was pretty long. The key is definitely just to try to stay to this guy's sides, but, yeah, I mean, it isn't too hard, especially because he lost his buff at the end there, so it was a lot easier to kill him. Moving on. This fight surprisingly gave me a lot of trouble. I don't know why, even though it was probably just because of that a higher health bar, I wasn't able to kill him as fast. So it was harder, because I needed like 3 poison casts instead of 1. And so it was a lot harder to just maintain, like, especially because he 2-hit me at this point too. It was a lot harder to like not die, because I basically need to be at full health to not be able to be one shot. But yeah, moving on. Welcome to the final boss of this run, due to some unfortunate circumstances, Fiend Knight. He was pretty difficult to take down. You know why? Because he's just incredibly resistant to fire and entirely resistant to poison, which means I can't really rely on poison damage to take him down here. So I have to use my Pyromancies, and because he takes so little damage already, I decided I would use primarily ranged Pyromancies so I could keep more of a distance while still damaging this guy. Even though I would be doing less damage overall, I already had so many Twilight Herbs just in my inventory from spawning them in that it's like I could just pop a couple during the fight, and then I would have enough to take this guy down in a reasonably safe manner that would be easy to like keep up for 20 minutes. Like, that was my main concern. I didn't want to use too many like long charge, because I tried killing him with like what I usually used, but a lot of my Pyromancies just took too long to cast, and so I just wasn't surviving, because I would just get like, I would try to cast one that took too long and I would take half my health. Like, you just chunk half my health, and it's like, what can I do then? And so I just switched to like any sort of fireball I had, which is just fireball, fire orb, great fireball, and forbidden sun. As soon as I used all 4 of those spells in their entirety, I would pop a Twilight Herb and then run for dear life for another like 5 minutes until I ran out of spells. This fight took probably about 20 minutes real time. It's in 4 times speed, so you can just multiply, like, you could kind of measure it in the, like, I don't really know exactly how long it was, but you can easily figure it out. Just multiply however long this fight is in the video times 4, and that's how long it actually was. But yeah, I mean, it definitely, it wasn't the worst fight. Like, I actually kind of enjoyed this. I wouldn't say enjoyed, because it is literally just me running from a boss for about like 20 minutes straight. But it definitely was a lot more enjoyable than like Alana and having to fight Veldstat twice in that fight, or the Gank Squad, really. And honestly, I would recommend this as a good challenge for anybody who wants a little more of a challenge in Dark Souls 2. Well, I mean, if you don't want a challenge at all, use hexes. If you want a little bit of challenge in the early game, use Pyromancy. And if you want to spend 20 minutes on Fume Knight, use Pyromancies. I mean, Pyromancies like basically drop anything anywhere else except for this guy. Like, this guy, honestly, I was considering almost just like using like a fist weapon, like a Cestus. But I mean, it basically did 36 damage anyway, so it's like I could keep my distance and spam fireballs, or I could be right in this dude's face with a Cestus. But I decided I would just keep my distance and throw these fireballs. And here at this point, I decided to use my more powerful spells first, knowing that, I mean, I would kill him in this like cycle of my spells. So I used my more powerful spells first to take his health bar down as quick as possible. And then I switched over to my regular fireballs as soon as I ran out of great fireballs, because my fire orbs and fireballs did the exact same amount of damage here. I don't really know why that is and how that makes sense at all, but yeah, not me to question it, I guess. But that's it. That is the run over. Unfortunately, we did miss a couple bosses along the way, but I think that's all right. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, maybe drop a like, comment, and maybe subscribe. And I probably will be taking a break this week, so I wouldn't expect anything out this coming weekend. I might be streaming a little bit though, so around 5 CST every day. I'll try to message more consistently in like the YouTube community page on whether or not I'm streaming that day a couple hours before. So if you want to see whether or not I'm streaming, just look at my community page around like 3:30 CST in a given day, and I should try to, I'll try to message in there that I'm not streaming. But yeah, if you do see a video up next weekend though, it'll probably be a Dark Souls 3 challenge run video, because I would do sorcery only Dark Souls 2 just to kind of get all of the different like magic schools. But honestly, hexes is basically sorceries. Like, they play the exact same, I feel like. And so I'm not really gonna bother. And I don't really like Dark Souls 2 enough to really, like, do anything harder, because I just feel like this game has a lot of, like, RNG. I wouldn't say RNG, but, like, there's a lot of things that can just kind of go wrong with this game. And, I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, so I don't really want to do a lot of, like, more difficult challenges, because I'm not really trying to have to deal with all of Dark Souls 2 in its, like, entirety, with, like, a more with a challenge where I struggle more. So I'll probably do Dark Souls 3. It may be a harder challenge, so it might honestly take 2 weeks, so you might not even see a video this weekend anyway, because I kind of do want to take on a harder challenge. But yeah, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.